Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Mama's Rule. If it's noisy, I apologize. I'm currently in the hospital. I had contractions from last night to today, and about 9 something tonight, I told my husband I couldn't take it anymore. We need to go to the hospital where we currently are. I came in at 3 centimeters dilated. They told me that they would probably send me home because I wasn't 4 centimeters dilated. So now they did a vaginal check, and then my mucus plug came out, and then 5 minutes later my water broke. So I'm gonna be admitted. I'm gonna do many videos like this just to keep you guys posted. So yeah, we're gonna have a baby at some point. Bye bye. Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. It is Mama's Rule, and as you can see, our prince has arrived. This is my labor and delivery story. If you guys do not know, obviously you don't, which is why I'm doing the video. I had him on April 30th, and he is just a beautiful little baby boy. My family and I are super blessed to have him as a part of our lives, and this is just an exciting time in our life, just to have this little guy. And he came out healthy and everything was good with him. Everything is good with me, so I'm super blessed and am excited to do this video to share with you guys what my labor and delivery story was. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. Before I get started, please like, comment, and subscribe. I would love to have you guys a part of the Mama's Rule family. And for all of my returning subscribers or people that are just now watching my video for the first time, I hope that you will look into the other videos that I have posted, and I hope that you guys enjoy this labor and delivery story. So let's just jump right in. I started just to backtrack, at 38 weeks I had my doctor's appointment, and at that time I still was not dilated at all. My doctor was telling me my uterus is still very high up, but through the I'm doing like this, through the exam that they did, they could feel his head, so he was low and in position, but no dilation. So that was like Thursday or Wednesday. I don't even remember the date, guys. If I remember the date, I'll put it somewhere down below. So that was my situation then. That week I was really sick. Not really sick, but I was sick. I had a sore throat for like a day or two, and then very stuffy and nasally and all of that stuff. But on Sunday, April 28th, around 4 p.m., I started to notice that I was having contractions. Now, it didn't cause me to have any concern because I've had contractions throughout the pregnancy, and it was nothing that was, like out of the norm for me. So my husband was at church. I didn't go to church that day because I wasn't feeling well. And when he came home, I told him, I'm having contractions or whatever, and he didn't think anything of it either because he knows that I've been having contractions throughout the pregnancy. So it wasn't something that was alarming. The contractions did not stop though. They were consistent from 4 p.m. until I went to sleep. And then I woke up around 1 a.m. the next morning, still 2 contractions. I could not go back to sleep. So from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., the contractions got stronger. I was able to finally go to sleep at 5 a.m. only to be awakened again at 6 a.m. because my husband had to get to work, and obviously I had to get myself ready to go to work as well. So I woke up at 6, and the contractions were stronger than what they were at 5, but they were still manageable. I pretty much have a high pain tolerance, so it wasn't something that was making me feel like, oh my God, I need to call my doctor, or I need to go to the hospital, or I need to take medicine. It was nothing at all like that. So my plan was for that week was to go to work Monday and Tuesday, and then from Wednesday on, take the rest of the week off because Thursday was my due date. Thursday would have been May 2nd, which was my due date. And if this baby did not come by that date, Friday, May 3rd, we were scheduled to have our C-section. So I went to work. Throughout work, I was tracking my contractions. They were like anywhere between, at times, 5 to 7 minutes, or 7 to 15, 7 to 10, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 15 minutes here. So they were like all over the place. But as the day progressed, they did start getting closer and closer together. I did write down every time I had experienced the contractions, and I'll insert a clip of what I wrote down here. So I did track them just so I would know from my own knowledge like what's going on, because like I said, from 4 o'clock the day before, I was having contractions that did not end through Monday. So my husband was in constant communication with me from that point, from that morning, because he was concerned. Obviously, his wife is having contractions at 39 weeks. So he kept calling me or texting me like, how are you feeling? Are you going to call your doctor? Blah, blah, blah. I still didn't feel satisfied with the work I had done at my job. I'm one of those people, like I'm very, I try to be as thorough as possible when it comes to work. So I wanted to make sure if I wasn't going to come to work on Tuesday because I wasn't feeling well or whatever, that everything was in place for whoever was going to be taking over until I returned from maternity leave. So I kept telling my husband, yeah, I'm going to call the doctor. I'm going to call the doctor, blah, 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 blah. I didn't wind up calling the doctor until 5:15 or so. I think I have it written down. Yep, I called the doctor at 5:15, and at that time, the contractions were definitely anywhere between 5 minutes and 7 minutes apart, or sometimes they would go to 10 minutes. So I told her that, and she suggested that I just go home, take a warm shower, get something to eat, maybe take some Tylenol and see, what happens. So I went home. I did exactly what she said to do. Tylenol did not help me at all. The shower did not help me. As I was showering, I was still contracting. And at that time, from leaving work up until then, the contractions were getting stronger. So by the time my husband came home at 6 o'clock, they were pretty strong. But again, I have a high pain tolerance, so it wasn't like I was dying. I just was getting to the point where I was reaching for his hand to hold his hand to get through the contraction. And literally the contractions weren't anything more than like 30 seconds apart or whatever. So that lasted, I was going through that from like 7, he got home at 6, so from 6 to, we put our son down around 10, so from 6 to 10, it was getting more intense, and he was tracking at that time how far the contractions were apart, and he was like, they're 5 minutes at this point. So he was like, what do you want to do? Again, I didn't feel like I was in labor, because I've never experienced labor before, so I didn't feel like I was in labor or even approaching labor, but my game plan was to try to stay home as long as possible before I went to the hospital. Around, I guess, like 10:45 or so, I was like, all right, let's go. We need to go to the hospital. So my husband, he's so cute. He was like running around the house trying to get everything prepared to take my son to his godmother's house, as well as get whatever he needed to get so that we can go to the hospital. We went to the hospital. Well, we dropped my son off to his godmother's house, and we drove to the hospital. Throughout that drive, literally, I knew when the next contraction was coming. I knew that they were exactly like anywhere between 4 to 5 minutes apart. So I would be looking at the clock. Okay, it's 5. Say it's 10:45. By 10:50, we're gonna have another contraction, and like clockwork, 10:50, we had another contraction. So that was what I experienced going to the hospital. When we got to the hospital, we saw the doctor, and he checked me. He was like, you are 3 centimeters dilated, which I was really surprised by. I didn't expect to be dilated at all. But he was like, what do you want to do? Do you want to do an epidural? Like, what do you want to do? I was like, my mindset was with the epidural that if you take an epidural, it's going to wear off, so try not to take it too early. So I didn't mess with the epidural. I was like, I'm fine. So he was like, all right, if you're not 4 centimeters dilated, we let you go home so that you're comfortable, and then you come back when you're a little bit more dilated. So I was like, all right. So he did his vaginal check or whatever, and as soon as he left the room, maybe like 5 minutes after he left the room, I felt something come out of my vagina, And my husband called him back into my husband looked and he was like, oh, I don't know what that is. So he called him into the room, the doctor came and said, I don't know if this is your water breaking or your mucus plug. So he took a sample or whatever he did to check it out, and he was like, okay, this is your mucus plug. And then he was like, I'm going to call your doctor and let her know what's happening. But at that point, we still were under the impression that they were going to send us home. So I remember telling my husband, like, I really don't want to go home just to turn around and come back. Like, I'm really hoping that they keep me. So when the doctor left, no lie, 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes that he was outside of the room, my water broke. So I told my husband, I'm like, I think my water broke. So he looked and he was like, yeah, your water broke. I think so too. Got the doctor came back. He was like, wow, yeah, your water broke. So my water broke, and obviously at that time we knew we were staying in the hospital. What happened after that? I don't have everything written down, so I'm sorry guys. I'm kind of going on memory now. So the water broke, and he called my doctor, let her know what was happening. And literally, guys, like every contraction that I was having, more water was coming out, which was a surprise to me because, to be honest with you guys, I had planned and prepared to have a C-section. I did not plan or prepare to have a vaginal birth. In my mind, I wasn't dilated the week before. I'm probably just gonna, have a C-section. So I'm always the type of person to prepare for the worst. So I didn't even look at anything as far as vaginal births or what to experience, what to expect. So the water broke. Like I said, every contraction that I had, more water was coming out. And they kind of just leave you in the hospital, like just letting the water come out. So when he came back into the room, I'm like dripping on the floor and stuff. He's like, all right, let's get something to clean this up and, make you comfortable or whatever. They admitted me and took me into the delivery room, where I got a little bit more comfortable. At that time, the pain was definitely more intense. And I asked the nurse, I was like, if I get the epidural, because I think they asked me about the epidural. So I was like, if I get the epidural, how long is that going to last? And she was like, it's going to last up until, you have the baby or whatever. They're going to keep shooting you with the medication or whatever, so you won't feel anything. Now, obviously, guys, I haven't been getting the best sleep, as you guys know. I didn't get the sleep that I needed the night before, and then I worked a full schedule, so I was tired. All I wanted to do was take some medication. Epidural was always going to be a part of, if I was going to have a part of the birth plan anyway. So they came, they gave me an epidural, which wasn't bad at all. And I was able to get some sleep off and on that night. I didn't feel any contractions. I mean, you do still feel contractions, or at least I still felt them, but they weren't intense like they were before. They were like very minimal, where you can go to sleep and be fine. The only thing that really bothered me throughout trying to sleep throughout the night was, like, obviously the nurses are coming in and checking you and stuff like that. They're monitoring the baby's heartbeat and everything else. And I remember at one point they came into the room and they were like, okay, we're going to try a different way to monitor his heartbeat. So my husband was like, well, is everything okay? They were like, yeah, it's just sometimes we can't see, like, the heartbeat is not registering the way that we think it should. So they did something where they put this wire or whatever it was on his head to monitor the contractions that way. But because of his hair, as you guys can see, he has a lot of hair. Because of his hair, I guess it kept going off periodically if I moved or whatever the situation was. So around 4 o'clock in the morning, my doctor finally came to the hospital, and she was like, I'm a little concerned about the heart rate. If it doesn't stabilize the way I want it to, then we're going to have to go in and take him. So at that point, I was just like, okay, God, whatever it is that you're going to do, whatever it is that you're going to have. In my mind, I still wasn't saying to myself, you're going to have a vaginal delivery. But I was just like, God, if this is what they're saying, whatever your will, let your will be done with the situation. So, that was 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what time it was that I got up after that, and they were still checking me. At some point I was like 6 centimeters dilated. I was at 5 for a little bit, and then I jumped from 5 to, I believe, 7 or 8. I remember praying, God, please let me get to 7. And by the time they checked me again, I was at an 8. If you guys don't know, you have to be 10 centimeters dilated to start pushing. So by the time they came and checked me again, I was at an 8. At the time that I was at an 8, I was saying to the nurses, like, I feel like I have to go number 2 and I feel like I have to pee. At this point, I had a catheter inside me. I was like, is this normal? And they're like, yeah, this is normal. You'll be okay. And I remember staying there from like 8 or 9. It was 9 o'clock in the morning at that time that I was really complaining about the pressure to have to go to the bathroom both ways. And they had the doctor come in and check me again. And at that point, I think I was a 9. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure the sequence of events that happened with that. I just remember that the last time I was like, listen, I have a strong sensation that I have to go to the bathroom both ways or push. So what's going on? So they called my doctor, and I believe, yep, my doctor came in and she checked me and she's like, you're at a 10, so we can start pushing. I don't remember what time this was that they said I could start pushing, but we started pushing, and my husband said I pushed for like 45 minutes or so. I'm not really sure. But at 10:16 in the morning, this little guy was born. Now, I have to tell you guys, I already said I did not plan on having a vaginal birth, so I did not look into anything as it related to the vaginal birth. Maybe like by the first 2 sets of pushing, I was like, oh my God, in my mind, I'm like, yo, this is hard work. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but I'm determined. If I'm at this point, if God has brought me this far in this journey to be pushing, I'm going to do what I have to do to try to push this baby out. So I just did what I had to do and just listened the best I could to the nurses and what they were telling me to do as far as pushing. And like I said, at 10:16 in the morning, this little guy came out. But prior to that, like my last couple of pushes, when the baby's coming out, you experience this burning. So when I started burning, I'm like, oh my God, take him, take him. My husband was like, you told them to, what did he say? He was like, catch him, catch him. Now, I don't think I told the nurses or doctor to catch the baby. I think I told them to take him because I did not expect to be feeling that burning sensation. Like, pushing was good, okay? I was fine to push, but that burning sensation, no ma'am. So I kind of freaked out a little bit, and I wind up having to apologize to my doctor after he was born. But she was like, Jessica, don't worry about it. Like, people, this is nothing. Like, you were fine. There have been people that have like literally tried to hit me or whatever. So I felt better about that. But in hindsight, me and my husband laugh about that experience today. Anyways, he was born. They put him right on top of my chest. And when I heard him cry, I'm going to get a little bit emotional right now. But when I heard him cry and I physically had him on my chest, I just got so emotional because you have this baby growing inside you for 9 months and you're finally at the point where you're meeting them and they're meeting you. And then to realize like I had a successful VBAC, like that really, those two things combined really had me choked up, guys. It really did. I think it was nothing but God that I was able to have a successful VBAC, because to me, I think like the week before, like I said, I was not dilated or anything like that. And I really thought in my mind, okay, we're going to have another C-section. Every time my husband talked about him being born, he always said, well, Friday, if you have him on Friday. So even with him, I don't think we really thought we were going to have a successful vaginal delivery. I think we just thought we're going to go through until Friday and he's going to be taken. But I'm so grateful that he came out healthy. He weighed 6 pounds, 1 ounce, and he was 20 inches, I don't know why I can't say that word, and a half, or just 20 inches even. I think it was 20 inches and a half. And he's just a beautiful, beautiful baby. He does remind me of his brother Jeremiah, who is super, super excited to be a big brother and to finally have met his little brother. And I'll insert a picture of the two of them here. But yeah, this little guy is just a wonderful, wonderful little baby. It's been quite the experience these last 7 days, having him here and just learning him and him learning me, and, you know, just adjusting to our new normal. So yeah, that's my labor and delivery story, guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I will tell you one thing, like having a VBAC is such a beautiful experience, and it's such a momentous, I guess you can say, occasion, if you will, because so many of the nurses at the hospital that we were at were like, oh my God, I heard you had a VBAC, congratulations. It didn't seem like, although they are common, the way that people were responding to me, knowing that I had the VBAC, was like, wow, like, you know, we didn't think this was going to happen type of response. So I'm so grateful that I was able to successfully have him via vaginal delivery. I will do a video regarding what my thoughts on a vaginal delivery compared to my thoughts on having a C-section, and things that that I have not seen in other videos that I have watched regarding vaginals, like back, not during this pregnancy, but just in times past or earlier on in this pregnancy, so that you guys can understand from a different perspective, because there are things that women did not say was going to happen that happen when you have a vaginal delivery. So I do want to share that with you guys. But without further ado, he is still sleeping. I will show you him. This is baby Daniel, who is knocked out. Ooh. Mommy gotta support the head. This is him. And he is just as cute and as precious as he wants to be. I hope that you guys can see him. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my video, and I hope that you guys enjoyed. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in our next video. Bye-bye.